Man, we talked about the offense. Now we got to talk about this defense. Now, on paper, it looks like we did exactly what we were supposed to do, and we did. They had less points than us, and at the end of the day, that's what you want. We were able to take the ball away 5 times. But something that I think me and you both had alluded to earlier this year is the time of possession. New England had the ball for 71 plays versus the Steelers 49. Our defense can't seem to get off the field. Why do you think that is?
Again, third down has been an issue, and in the Sunday's game, fourth down was an issue because they weren't able to stop them until the final fourth down of the game. But again, when you go from on your own 15-yard line, that lets you know we don't believe in what you're capable of doing on the defensive side, and that's what they did because that could easily change field position in that particular case. But stat-wise, it didn't line up, but they created the turnovers. And when you talk about it from a defense perspective, you're always talking about creating turnovers. It could have been more if you sit back and look at it. If Chuck Clark was able to hold on to the football, he had an interception early on the first possession that was in his hands. He drops that. And then later in the game, he ended up having one that was kind of cradled, but it hit the ground first. So that could have been 2 more additional turnovers that they had. But to their credit, they were able to stand up, create those turnovers. All 3 of their running backs, they fumbled the ball. But ultimately, the one that I love is at the end of the half, that big drive that they had. And when everything was going the Patriots' way, all of a sudden, Brandon Echols, he comes up with the big interception. But if you go back and watch the play, that was Drake May's fault because the motion that he brought in, he didn't allow that receiver to get back out, and it disrupted the play because that's the flat defender. So when Drake now goes back, flat defender's not there. Brandon is baiting him and saying, oh, look at him. He's open. He's open. And then sure enough, Drake throws the ball. He intercepts the pass. So it was a great play by Brandon in that particular situation. Learning lesson for Drake, but that's going to be one for them that they defensively, they're like, hey, continue to create the turnovers to get your offense going. But again, we can't sustain that model.
Yeah, we had some new pieces getting involved in the defense. So there's going to be a learning curve for the likes of Derek Harmon. Jabril Peppers, number 40, we got him from New England, or just recently released from New England. And like you mentioned, Chuck Clark, some new pieces. So it's going to take a while for them to, gel together as a unit. But still, it's sad to say that this is the best run defense that we put up, and we still gave up 119 yards on 29 carries.
Here's the one thing I'm encouraged about, Trai. Derek Harmon.
Okay.
Man, that guy there. And I think he is the reason that we can sit back and talk about as the run defense is not being what we were the first couple of weeks, but it's starting to become lower and lower. And I think that's the main part of it because of Derek Harmon. Whether you agree or not, what you think?
No, I agree. Derek Harmon played well, especially for his first time out. I was concerned I wanted to see his level of conditioning. That's always the big question when you're in there in the trenches. And there is a lot of attrition that builds up throughout camp and stuff. And he wasn't able to participate that last week of camp. And then the first 2 weeks of the season, he practiced. So I was interested to see his level of conditioning. And he showed up pretty well. But I'll tell you one thing. I think this experiment, and I don't know if it's an experiment or if it's going to be something that they are sticking to, of Keanu Benton at nose, I don't like it. I don't think that he just has enough body mass, and I don't think they're using him as a skill set. I think he's a penetrator, and he has a 2-gap too much, and I don't think he has enough lead in his ass to hold up as a 2-gap nose in our 3-4 defense. What say you?
It's starting to show up because anytime that there's a double team, he's getting pushed back. He's not creating that and pushing back and allowing the linebacker to scrape and get where they need to get to. So, but again, is he playing out of position? Possibly, because, you're trying to make up for the Derek Harmon loss. But now that Harmon is back and when he gets more comfortable, that knee gets stronger, maybe you now slide him into the middle to be able to take on some of those double teams, allowing Benton to get to where he needs to get to, feeling a lot more comfortable with it. So I get it. But now that these pieces are starting to come together, we're going to see. And I think ultimately when I'm paying attention to Derek Harmon, how did his knee hold up? We won't know that, but was there any swelling coming off that game? You add the flight onto it, the altitude, and now he's preparing to get ready for this game, and then you have a longer flight to get ready for in Ireland. So the training staff, they have their work cut out for him to make sure they keep that swelling to a minimum for Derek.
Right. Also, another pleasant surprise on that defense side. We got to see 55. Cole Holcomb started the game over Peyton Wilson, and I thought he had an immediate effect, especially in the run game. We needed that guy that was not afraid to put their face in the fan. Somebody that could square up a lineman, shed blocks, versus the linebackers that we've had so far with Patrick Queen and Peyton are guys that try to elude the blocker. And it was good to see 55 man. He did not waste any time making an impact when he caused that fumble. Did the coaching staff hear us last week? I know we mentioned that Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen need to pick it up this week. I thought Patrick had a much better game, and I think a lot of that was because Cole Holcomb was lined up next to him.
Yeah, that too. And I think, and Cole knows the defense a lot better than Peyton Wilson. And those are things that, he's going to now get back in there. And there was a reason why they went out a couple of years ago to sign him in free agency from Washington.
Right.
And he proved that he can play up until his injury. Now that he's back from that injury, he had a solid training camp, and now he is into the mix. And again, that's like a bonus for the Steelers because they didn't necessarily think if he was going to come back. So you add that to the element. Patrick Queen doesn't have to line him up. He doesn't have to worry about anybody else. That allows him naturally with his instincts to just go out there and play. There were a couple times that he had to kind of move some of the defensive linemen, back into position whenever there was a shift or a motion by the offense. But that's expected. That happens from time to time, especially when that defensive lineman hand is in the dirt. He doesn't get a chance to see everything when it happens. So I'm excited about where they are at this particular point because, yes, we could talk about Cole Holcomb and the impact that he made there. But I think overall in that middleman, there was some plays that won't show up in the stat line that defense knows when they're watching it as a whole. Those are very important plays.
Somebody who was suspiciously quiet on Sunday that we've heard a lot from the first 2 weeks, number 5, Jalen Ramsey. I didn't see a lot of him yesterday, and that might be a good thing. That might just be a respect thing because the Patriots avoid throwing in his direction. I didn't hear a lot of Stephon Diggs. I'm not quite sure. Was he following Diggs around the whole game?
It didn't look like it because there was a time that I did see Brandon Echols that was on him as well. But again, when you're not hearing safety's name or a corner's name, that sometimes that is a good thing. Mm-hmm. And because they're not throwing at him. But if you heard the comments after the game, Brandon Echols, he said, "Hey, it looked like they were targeting me, and I was ready and prepared for that." So that lets them know that maybe he was the guy that they were throwing after, and that's why you're not hearing Ramsey's name.
Right. Well, we both thought we came out of here with a win, and it was a good thing. Like they have a lot to improve on.